So you want to burn a Quran on September 11th? Before you do this, I would like to share with you a bit of history in regards to book burnings. Book burnings throughout history have been a tool of censorship. Our first records of public book burnings go back to around 213 BC, when the Chinese emperor Qin Shi Huang forbid all books not following the philosophy he intended to be the only valid one for his nation, resulting in books of all other schools being burned. In 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea decided all books by the Presbyterian Arius should be burned as heretic. In 391, the Library of Alexandria went up in flames, destroying collected works of hundreds of years, probably the most extensive library of its time. In 1242, any Jewish books, mainly the Talmud, were confiscated all through France, England, Portugal, and parts of Spain, and burned in what we now know as the Talmud burning of Paris. It became known as one of the biggest cultural crimes of the Middle Ages. In the 15th century, the Catholic Church arranged for several book burnings, the most popular one probably being that arranged by the Archbishop of Toledo, which became the story of Heinrich Heine's tragedy Almansor. Along with these book burnings came the persecution of authors as well as book owners, many of which burned at stake. The next century wasn't much calmer, with the Catholic Church arranging for the burning of all published works of a man we all know as Martin Luther. A large portion of you may remember this man for being one of the first that dared translating the Bible, so that the common folk who didn't know Latin could read it. Around 1618, Protestants in England burned the Book of Sports, which, according to their Puritan beliefs, violated the holiness of the Sabbath. Surely a lot of you intentional book burners quite enjoy relaxing on Super Bowl Sunday? In 1650, the first documented book burning took place on American soil, in the market square of Boston, where religious books were burned. Book burnings didn't stop in the 18th century, this time mainly performed by various Christian groups, burning the books of other Christian groups in the belief that only their own writings were the ones truly inspired by God. In 1873, the self-proclaimed censor Anthony Comstock founded the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice and started the burning of any books not in accordance with his Victorian rules, resulting in the destruction of 120 tons of literature by authors such as Ernest Hemingway. He managed to initiate the Comstock Law, which to this day forbids the mailing of obscene material, such as erotic literature, nude photographs, or rubber items. More than 200 private organizations in several states to this day put pressure on publishers, bookstores, and libraries, performing their witch hunt aimed at authors, teachers, and librarians who do not comply with their ideas. On August 25, 1914, during the early days of World War I, the University Library of the Catholic University Leuven was burned down by German troops, destroying irreplaceable handwritten scriptures from the Middle Ages, which caused an outcry of disgust throughout the rest of the world. On May 10, 1933, there was a public book burning in Nazi Germany under the motto "Against the Un-German Mindset," in which tens of thousands of Jewish, Marxist, and pacifist works were confiscated and publicly burned. In 1975, in Cambodia, any book was destroyed with the intention to completely abandon intellect in order to enforce agricultural communism. The government also murdered teachers and the country's entire intellectual elite. In May 1981, the Jaffna Public Library in Sri Lanka was burned down, destroying more than 97,000 books. Very many old palm leaf manuscripts were destroyed in the process. In 1988, Muslims all over the world burned Salman Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses, and put a bounty on the author's head. I could go on endlessly, but it's time I come to an end of this small insight into the history of book burnings. Let me just ask you, before you go out and burn that Quran, do you really want to be associated with the book burners I just told you about? Think before you light it up.